Good afternoon and welcome to the Industry Week Book Club. I am Jill Jusko and I'm executive editor with Industry Week, and we are pleased to have you join us. With us today is Billy Ray Taylor, founder and president of LinkedXL and author of The Winning Link, a proven process to define, align, and execute strategy at every level. About an hour ago, we posted an excerpt of Billy's new book on the Industry Week website. So please look for it there. And I first met Mr. Taylor back when he was with Goodyear, where he had a long and successful career. He has provided keynote addresses at our conference in the past, and I know him to be a dynamic speaker, as I just mentioned to him earlier, as well as a thoughtful individual. And I look forward to our talk today. So, welcome, Billy.
Well, Jill, thank you for having me. I'm honored to be on the show today with the club, and I look forward to engaging and interacting.
Okay, terrific. So let's get right to our questions. And Billy, the obvious first question, I think, is can you tell us a little bit about what the book is about and why now was the right time to put it out there?
Well, it's really about executing strategy, executing whatever a company wants to achieve, winning. And through my 30-year career at Goodyear, that was important. And through that, defining, aligning, and executing winning. And so what the book is, it's a roadmap on how to connect your organizations so leaders can manage the intersections. And so the intersections are things that marketing, sales, human resources, and often those become silos. And if you don't have an effective strategy deployment model and a governance model for your daily management system, those become collisions rather than connections. And so the book really shows a detailed plan on how to map out your strategy and build a foundation of extreme ownership.
And why now?
Well, now is after 30 years, I knew it was time for me to pursue my passion, pursue my purpose, and that's sharing, helping others grow. And when I sit down, the goal was not to write a book. I was helping a friend at PPG, and he invited me over to his organization, and he showed me a strategy. And I said, "This is a great strategy, but the problem is it's a secret, and you can't manage a secret. Your team does not know about this strategy, nor do they know what they own in your strategy." And so we mapped it out, and he says to me, "Billy, this needs to be in a book. The way you engage people through this process," because we had this whole leadership team come in, and we played catch ball around what they owned in the strategy. And what we said was strategy plus execution equals results. But if it's that simple, why do so many companies fail? Because people don't know what they own in the strategy. That's the plus. And so when we started building his model, he started netting 52,000 plus a day more profits and more volume and efficiency and those type of gains and less spend. And so that was the foundation of moving forward and writing the book. We saw a value proposition out in the market.
Okay, terrific. So your book is The Winning Link, and I know you talk about this in the book, and you mentioned specifically what I'm going to ask you about is that winning means a lot of things, and it means different things to different people. When you talk about winning, what do you mean?
What I mean is for an organization or a person, winning is not just in business, it's in life. What's that end game for you? What's the most important thing that you need to provide deliberate clarity around so people understand what it is and can rally around it? It's also tied to your purpose. When I say winning, think of going to a football game. We call it in the book, we talk about CPIs, KPAs, and KPIs. A
Hmm.
CPI is a critical performance indicator. It's the main thing. So leaders and organizations they try to, what I call it, measure everything. And what we say is, what's the most critical component? And then you start to establish what are your KPAs, your key performance actions. See, if I want to lose weight, I stand on the scale, that's a KPI. The exercising, the eating the calories, the sleep I get, those are KPIs that can be measured. So winning is, what's that most important thing that you like to accomplish? Even if you're a coach of a sporting team, what's winning is, what is that thing that we're going to rally around? Why do we show up every day? What does winning mean? It's different in service as it is in a for-profit, but leaders have to be very clear on what winning is, be deliberately clear on what it is. And in the book, I share a story when I went to a failing organization, and I was terrified of the assignment. As I went around on the back shifts, this was before Undercover Boss, I asked the whole team, what's winning? What are we trying to achieve? I knew when I accepted the job, they were making 31,000 tires a day, and the market needed 38,000 tires a day. So we bought everybody in the plant a customized football jersey because it was a football city with the number 38 on it. Now, after that, we had roundtables, letting people ask me questions on what winning was, but we rallied around that 38. And in 6 months, with no additional cost, we had built a plan to achieve it. But we had to be very clear on what it is we wanted to achieve. Now, that's different for individuals, but everyone should define what winning is with deliberate clarity. Even when you start a meeting, when you go into that meeting, what's winning? If you can start with that, you can build that foundation so you can win.
Okay. So, why do you think so many companies struggle to develop and execute a strategy that works for them? That takes them towards achieving their goals or winning?
Mhm. Uh, and this is from companies that I work with and I have worked with in the past. One, companies fail to deploy that strategy to the point of impact at every level of the organization, and then provide deliberate clarity on who owns what in that strategy. But once that's broken down, leaders fail to set the standard. They fail to govern whatever processes they have. But what I see most often why people fail is they compromise on what the standards are. They compromise on how they're going to manage to that strategy. I always say leaders, I often see leaders, they're afraid to let go without letting loose. They don't put the systems in place that people are brought back in settings to explain their performance, because they don't even know what they own. And what I say is, in the absence of ownership comes blame. When people don't know what they own in the strategy, they all they do is blame why the strategy isn't working. And that happens, that cadence continues day in and day out. What you accept, you can't change. It's
So, does
just
your book tell them to accept that?
well, it says what do they own and what do they commit to? And so when you have these governance meetings, and this is where conflict arises or confrontation arises. Leaders have to hold to the standard. But if leaders can establish who owns what the strategy is, who owns what in the strategy, and the governance model where we're going to talk about performance at every level, even walking out on a gimbal walk, what does the operator own in that strategy? I'll give the example. If Billy Taylor had to get 38,000 tires a day, I had 38 tire builders. Every tire builder had to get 1,000 tires a day. But they knew what they owned in the strategy. And when the strategy broke down, Billy didn't show up to say, what the heck's going on? Why are you failing? My first question was, what do you need from me? How can I support you? And when people see you come up and you're part of the process, you're part of their success. I would say if you make people visible, they'll make you valuable. And so when you interact with those people, they know what they own in the strategy. You put a process in to help them, and then you're hard on that process. And often when I talk, Jill, I ask people to write this down. Be hard on the process so you can lead easy on the people. If you're hard on the process, you're clear on what we should do, what we should be doing, how the strategy is. You've enabled them with everything they need to be successful. Then the question is, why aren't you following the process?
So it sounds to me like communication can't be overemphasized in this.
No. Communication, you can't over communicate, nor can you over educate. You
Okay.
can't do either of those. And leaders, and I failed at a lot of these, Jill, and that's what I'm talking about in the book. It's not about Billy success stories. These are around leaders I've encountered over 30 years. This is their stories. This is the fact that when I was a young leader coming up, I'd sit in meetings and I'd try to win friends instead of establish standards. And so if you're late to a meeting, I remember being put in a position to lead the people that hired me and trained me. And they would show up late to meetings. And I'd put a cup in the middle of the room, the table, and say, if you're late, please put a quarter in the cup. And I remember calling my mom and saying, Mom, I don't know how to get them there. I put a cup in the middle. She goes, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Why are you negotiating on what the standard is? And she said, the difference between a fact and an excuse is timing. Call me before the meeting and tell me you're going to be late. Don't call me after the meeting. Establish your standard and how the team's going to operate, and then hold to that standard.
Okay. So that kind of moves to my next question, and you've addressed this a little bit, and maybe you have a couple of more, but can you share with us, and indeed you have already to some degree, some of the elements to a couple of key elements to success, to winning?
Mm-hmm. One of it is extreme ownership. How do you establish a culture of ownership, especially post-COVID? People are working from home. The command and control style of leadership is not that effective today, but extreme ownership is. And some of the keys to driving excellence, to driving performance, is extreme ownership. Getting people engaged and understanding that they are now in a supreme leadership role, no matter what their title is. And often, and I'm going to go back to establishing the standards around the strategy, creating a weekly, a DOR, a daily operating review, especially as you get closer to the source, but more importantly, weekly operating reviews so we understand status. And then what we do is we build action registers, and they're visible. And you start building your visual management systems, you need something at every level. Now, as you go up the ladder, your visual management should be high tech, low touch. You're in an office, we're at a laptop. As you get closer to the source, it should be low tech, high touch, high visibility, because you like to see your results. Think about going to a sporting event. When you go to a sporting event and you sit down and you get your refreshments, the first thing you do is look at a scoreboard. The reason why, we are wired to know if we're winning or not. And, we're wired to really value our input to winning. And good leaders, they create an environment of psychological safety, right? I say celebrate the red so you can harvest the green. Right? And because if people don't feel psychologically safe, they're not going to tell you anything. Right. And as you're having these meetings, you have to create this psychologically safe environment so people can engage. And they'll tell you bad news, because remember, you can't manage a secret. And if people don't tell you what the issues are, then how are you going to manage it? How are you going to drive results? How are you going to understand your constraints? Because what I see in industry is, some people are aware that they're going to be over budget by a substantial amount, but they're going to wait and say, I'm going to wait until the end of the month. I'm only going to take that whooping once. I'm only going to take that scolding once, rather than coming and telling me ahead of time, and we can make some decisions, plan, do, check, act around improving that current state, because I know. And so that's what I talk about in the book, how to create a strategy with a purpose. So we created a new process called purpose mapping, and it connects functions and tiers. It's really a strategy on a page. We call it a SOAP. strategy on a page, and you can see it. Um, and we've seen nonprofits, small entrepreneurial businesses, as well as large corporations go through the purpose mapping process, and it's so effective. Um, it links your whole organization. And the theme around the book is linking things together so they work together for a common cause, a common purpose.
Okay. Well, we are out of time.
Mhm.
So I want to say thank you very much, Billy, for your time this afternoon. I want to thank our audience for your time. I want to remind you once again the name of the book, which you should be seeing on your screen: The Winning Link, a proven process to define, align, and execute strategy at every level. Again, thank you, Billy. Everybody, have a great remainder of your day.
Thank you.